Chances are, if you grew up in the 90s, you had some of the most epic water battles ever. Water balloons, fire hydrants, hoses, and water pistols were all staples of a water fight, but it wasn't until 1990 where everything changed. On this episode, we're going to explore one of the most popular water toys ever, the Super Soaker, and the man behind the invention, Dr. Lonnie Johnson.
Did I forget to invite you to the pool party? Well, maybe next year.
On those occasions when you need to make a big splash, there's the Super Soaker 100. It has a powerful air pressure system,
Oh, Buffy!
a range of up to 60 feet, and a drenching spray. The Super Soaker 100.
It's a water gun of a higher caliber.
Also the 50, or the ultimate, the 200.
It's February at the time of filming this, and some of you are probably snowed in, and you're also wondering, why are we talking about a summer toy? But it is Black History Month, and I wanted to talk about this revolutionary toy, but most importantly, the man behind this invention, Dr. Lonnie Johnson. So let's go through 10 interesting facts about Super Soaker's origin. Lonnie Johnson's early life. So first, let's talk about the man, this legend of toy history. Lonnie Johnson was born October 6, 1949 in Montgomery, Alabama. His father was a handyman, and he would always sit there and watch him build things, which sort of grew his curiosity. In high school, he won a science fair contest by building an air pressure powered robot. And in 1973, he would attend Tuskegee University, where he would obtain a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, and then in 1975 would acquire his master's degree in nuclear engineering. Johnson had a career with the Air Force where he worked on the stealth bomber, and then eventually went over to NASA where he worked on the Galileo project for a mission to Jupiter. The Super Soaker was made by a complete accident. So in 1982, Johnson was a rocket engineer by day, working on the Galileo space mission, but at night, he would moonlight creating all sorts of different projects at home. He was working on a water pump device so he can eliminate the use of Freon, which was pretty harsh for the environment. And he was working on this pump and hooked it up to his bathroom sink. When he turned the sink on and the water shot across the room, a light bulb went off, and he thought this would make an awesome toy. The original prototype. The original design wasn't too far off from what we saw with the first iteration of Super Soaker. Johnson went and grabbed some PVC parts, some plexiglass, and rubber tubing, and a 2-liter bottle of soda, and this is how he crafted the first actual prototype for the Super Soaker. The device used manual air pressure that needed to be pumped, and after the device was pumped, it would be able to shoot across the room. Johnson actually tells a funny story of going to a military picnic where one of his commanding officers was there, saw him holding his prototype water gun, asked him if it worked, and instead of saying yes, he just shot him with it, and that caused a whole big water fight to ensue. So he always kind of had play at heart as well. Johnson meets Larami. So 7 years would pass from Johnson creating his original prototype in 1982 before he finally met a company that would actually take and produce the product. He would go to a bunch of toy fairs and would get turned down, but finally when he met Larami, they were interested. At the time, they were making cheap versions of water pistols, probably some of the first ones we remember, but they were also making some realistic style battery-powered water guns that were becoming a little more problematic, especially with parents at the time. So in 1989, they agreed to manufacture the product, and by 1990, the first Super Soaker made it to toy shelves.
What's the matter, Bobby?
Sometimes a regular squirt gun just won't do. Introducing the Super Soaker 50.
I'm back.
Just pump up our powerful air pressure system, and you can soak someone up to 50 feet away.
Sorry, sis.
The Super Soaker 50 from Larami.
You'll be wet.
Also available, the Super Soaker 100 and the Super Soaker 30.
Now I remember being one of the first kids to have the Super Soaker 50. I think we were going to some picnic where there was going to be a water gun fight, so my mom went out and got one right away. And this is one of those instances where you don't want to be the first one out the bat with this toy because there was new versions coming out. So we had the Super Soaker 50, but then the 100, the 150, the 200 came out, and we were outgunned. Super Soaker's original name was the Drencher. Originally, the Super Soaker was going to be called the Drencher. However, there was a company that already had the rights to that name, and they were requesting royalties from Lonnie Johnson and Larami if they didn't change the name. To avoid any legal trouble, they ended up changing the name to Super Soaker, but the company still wasn't satisfied. They were calling retailers, telling them that if they actually purchased the Super Soaker that they would sue. In the end, Lonnie Johnson and Larami ended up suing that toy manufacturer and won. So not actually sure whatever happened to the Drencher. Record-breaking sales. Between 1992 and 1995, Super Soaker was one of the hottest selling toys ever. And since then, it's sold over 27 million units and over $1 billion in sales. New designs were produced every year, which made it easy for parents to upgrade their kids' water gun. And after the Super Soaker 50, one of my favorite Super Soakers was the Super Soaker XP85 Triple Shot.
Super Soaker XP85 Triple Shot. The one and only Super Soaker that fires 1, 2, 3 streams of water at once. Rotating nozzles let you hit the target to the left, to the right, to the middle. The Larami Super Soaker XP85 Triple Shot. Well, if better.
This thing was so cool. It just worked like a normal Super Soaker, but you can shoot in 3 different directions, and that thing was awesome. Super Soaker creates an action figure. In 1992, Super Soaker released Super Soaker Man.
Super Soaker Man, the robot with Super Soaker power.
This is a really cool part of Super Soaker history that I think a lot of people either never knew about or have forgotten about, but they did create this action figure and it has that same air pressure action. So you fill the body up with water, you pump his head to create that air pressure, and supposedly he's supposed to shoot water over 20 feet. I've actually never tried mine, but this is a cool part of toy history that I wanted in my collection. Hasbro acquires Larami. In 1995, Hasbro purchased Larami, and Johnson actually did go on to work on some Nerf products.
Nerf. For every mission, there's a Nerf blaster. For distance, the long shot CS6 shoots up to 35 feet.
It's Nerf or nothing.
The long shot CS6. Blasters heat sold separate.
The product line that Lonnie Johnson worked on with Nerf was the Nerf N-Strike. And he was very specific about letting Hasbro know that he wanted his own product subline. So anything that Johnson worked on under Nerf had to be called the N-Strike. And like typical Hasbro, they're going to Hasbro, so they continued to make products with the N-Strike name on it that were not produced with Lonnie Johnson. And in the end, Lonnie ended up suing them. Eventually, with the lawsuit, Hasbro did owe Johnson royalties and had to pay up over $73 million. National Toy Hall of Fame. On November 5th, 2015, the Super Soaker was inducted into the National Toy Hall of Fame. The Super Soaker was inducted into the Hall of Fame alongside some other very popular toys, Puppets and Twister, and there were many other toys nominated that year. Spinning Tops, the Wiffle Ball, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Scooters, Playmobil, Jenga, coloring books, Battleship, and American Girl dolls were all finalists but were beat out by the Super Soaker. Dr. Lonnie Johnson now. Now Johnson could have taken the fortune he made with Super Soaker, retired somewhere off on the beach somewhere, but he decided to dedicate the rest of his life to science, starting his own company called J-Tech. They are headquartered in Atlanta and they work on all sorts of environmental solutions, working on batteries that should replace the lithium-ion battery, looking at renewable energy or power sources. And to this day, he has over 100 patents, and in 2022 was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame. There you have it, guys. Those are my 10 interesting facts about Super Soaker and, of course, the man, the myth, the legend behind it, Dr. Lonnie Johnson. I think he deserves so much recognition, not just in the toy community amongst us collectors, but even beyond with his scientific work for the community and the environment. So just really wanted to highlight him. And I knew a lot about Super Soaker, but not so much about the man behind it. And I watched tons of interviews just to kind of give you the cliff notes about it. If you really want to dive into it, I'm leaving some links in the description of some interviews I watched with him. And just an amazing person to listen to and learn their story. Thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed this one. And until the next episode, we'll catch you next time.